I don't mean it arrogantly to say, but I do think I'm the first person to point this pattern out. And that is, I want to play for you, first of all, Rachel Maddow on MSNBC.
Motivation's coming from, even if he's not correct about his own political...
Okay, I'm sorry, that's Chris Hayes first, but you can't really tell the difference.
...or in denial about the inexorable trajectory of being a human being who is mortal, like we all are.
Yeah.
That was, to me, clarifying.
And, you know, you make a really important point, Chris, that I think we can't say frequently enough as Democrats and people who want Donald Trump to be prevented from returning to the White House sort of anguish over this decision, which is that there is not perfect information about the future. And the argument that President Biden is best positioned to beat Donald Trump is an argument. There are other arguments that are also data-based that other people might have a better shot at it.
Okay, I'll stop there because I can only listen to that so much. Then there's David Axelrod.
Caitlin, he said at the end that he might change his mind if his team came to him and told him that he couldn't win, but they haven't done that, or that someone else had a better chance of winning. If that's the case, then they're not really leveling with him about where this race is, and they really should. It's not fair to him if they're not telling him the truth. He is in a very, very tough spot. I don't know anyone in politics who would tell you, who looks at the numbers that we see, would tell you that he has a very good chance to win this race.
All right, so you got Chris Hayes, you got Rachel Maddow, you've got David Axelrod, you got all the people on CNN, you got a lot of the anchors out there, you've got the editorial boards of the Washington Post, the Boston Globe, the New York Times, and elsewhere, all saying, Joe Biden, you need to go. You know what they all have in common? Oh, and let's not forget George Clooney, and you got Michael Moore. You've got the Pod Saves America guys, John Favreau and the like. What do they all have in common? They're white people. Many of them white men. Joe Scarborough. Yeah, I mean, the list goes on. White men saying it's probably time for Joe Biden to go. What I find very notable is the loudest defenders of Joe Biden are black. And what's notable is if Joe Biden went away, the odds are Kamala Harris would be the nominee, and yet they would prefer Joe Biden. Now, the dirty little secret is Democrat focus groups, not Republican, not independent, Democrat focus groups of black men and black women tell them Kamala Harris is not a good candidate. That's the dirty little secret. You'll know one of the dogs not barking here is the aggressive defense of Kamala Harris. No one's out there really defending her. In fact, they're talking about let's do a rapid open primary or have an open convention. That's an admission against interest. Democrats privately know she's not a good candidate. Their internal data, their internal focus groups. I know this for a fact, by the way, that their internal focus grouping for Kamala Harris is brutal, with black women, no less. Black voices on television are the biggest defenders of Joe Biden. Here, listen to this last night from Ashley Allison on CNN.
Joe Biden stays in the race, I'm going to do every single thing I can to defeat Donald Trump, because as a black woman living in this country that has less constitutional rights than I had from the day that I was born 42 years ago, I refuse to live under Donald Trump's reign again. I refuse to risk our democracy. And Joe Biden is the person right now who is able to defeat him. And so when people are saying, do something to prove that you have the command of the knowledge, and you stand up and you call on 10 reporters and you answer 19 questions for 59 minutes, then I ask you, if you go and say step down, then what is the test that he must prove over and over again? Because then it feels like you, as a person who is calling for him to step down, is being disingenuous. Now, I'm not saying it's not wrong, because that debate was terrible, and Joe Biden has acknowledged that. But as people who are living with the fear of a possible dictator to take over this country, I just ask you, as a Democratic Party, and I'm not super excited about Joe Biden, but I am terrified of Donald Trump, to get it together for the people that you are asked to represent. There is too much at stake. And I don't understand what more people need after a night like tonight to say he is the leader of the free world. I sometimes on television say, if there go I, but for the grace of God, that I am not held to the mistakes I make sometimes on television in the days of my life. And I'm a little annoyed and I'm furious because I talk to black people who have saved this country over and over, who helped elect Joe Biden, who saved the Democratic Party time again. And black people are saying, let it go, folks. And yet again, when you look at the people who have called for him to step down, they are not the backbone of the Democratic Party. And that, to me, is frustrating.
They're a bunch of white people. She's right. It is remarkable. The strongest defenses you get on television from Joe Biden are black Democrats, the constituency that's beginning to leave the Democratic Party. Jim Clyburn's another one.
He's done fewer news conferences than any president, the last 7 presidents, fewer news conferences, fewer interviews like this. Do you think this White House has shielded him too much?
Well, I don't know what the magic number would be, but I do believe that he is pacing himself.
You can acknowledge he has not been out there as much as some of his predecessors. Has that been to his detriment?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. I do know that all of us, I've been asking him to do more town hall style meetings because I think that he performs well when he interacts with people. And I think people feel better about him when they're allowed to interact with him. I don't want people to think that you got to be going through the trials of a press conference. If you let the press look in on your interactions.
But Congressman, don't you think that would help allay a lot of the concerns that people have in this country, that the president's not up to the job, if they saw and heard him in more unscripted settings on a more regular basis?
Well, that may be true. I'm not saying that won't be the case, but I'm saying that is not required in order to prosecute the case. Get out among the people.
Lastly.
And Biden, of course, is upping his unscripted events. But so now there's Jim Clyburn. Now here's Val Demmings as well.
Val, what do you see in Julian's logic? It's an A to Z logic.
Well, Jose, it's great to be with you. And let me just say this. There are 3 people who could be the next president of the United States. Donald John Trump, who has been found liable for sexual assault, stole classified documents, I'm sure, for personal gain, multiple indictments, multiple felony convictions. There's Joe Biden, who has proven every day that he can do the job by doing the job every day. And, to say that, well, my God, what will happen in 3 or 4 years? Well, we don't know with any elected official what they will do in office in 3 or 4 years. The third possibility is Vice President Harris. And I truly believe that Vice President Harris is capable of leading us to the next level and also carrying on Joe Biden's legacy. Jose, what I am disappointed about are the Democrats who have come out against the president and saying that they don't believe that he can win when we don't know which Democratic potential candidate can win. And until we have our strategy together, a winning strategy, until we have a plan B, that we have the polling and other factors that will help us believe that they have a better chance of winning than Joe Biden, I think that it would be wise for Democrats to stay in that back room, continue to have those discussions. Let's get our plan B together, especially the 17 who have come out against Joe Biden. I think it's interesting. 17 out of what? Or 17 out of 213 people in the House, 47 senators, 4 independents, and 1 who have come out in the Senate.
And they're all white. Well, okay, 2 Asians, but mostly all white. It really is remarkable. And now there's Jaime Harrison, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee.
All he wants allows him to do that. And what you have seen on the Republican side is them falling in line. Knowing all of that they've known, twice impeached and all, falling in line. The reason why the polls are as close as they are, and they're close, their races are close, is because we as Democrats need to solidify behind our guy. Stop the hand-wringing, stop all of the cerebral hoops that we're jumping through, and focus on Joe Biden, a good man, a decent man, a man who has worked hard to transform this nation.
It it's just telling to me, it really is eye-opening to me that the most aggressive defenders of Joe Biden are not white. The people who want to throw Joe Biden overboard are white. The Congressional Black Caucus is his staunchest group of supporters in the United States Congress. You risk sabotaging the black vote that already shows signs among young men of drifting to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not going to win the black vote. Anyone who believes Donald Trump is going to win the black vote is a fool. But Donald Trump doesn't have to win the black vote. If he just picks up 5% more of the black vote, you can't stop him. And the Democrats are playing with fire in this. It's just the most striking thing. The white guys want Joe Biden to get out of the race, and the black voices in the Democratic Party are saying, no, we need to stick with Joe Biden. This has the potential to tear apart the Democratic Party. It will be funny to watch. When the Democratic Party became the party of the awfuls, the affluent white female urban liberals, Chris Hayes to Rachel Maddow, suddenly they're wanting to push out a president who has great support in the black community. And it's just remarkable to watch this played out on television. And no one seems to have noticed it except for me. When repeatedly, time and time again, you've also got Bakari Sellers on CNN. I don't have the audio, but Bakari Sellers yesterday was essentially saying, why don't these Democrats shut up? Stop airing their laundry in public. If you got concerns, go to Joe Biden in private. Otherwise, stand with Joe Biden. This, again, has the potential to tear apart that party. And now you've got the NPR Marist poll coming out showing Joe Biden's actually in the lead. And more people are concerned with an honest president than an old president. These are destabilizing times for the Democrats. It is fantastic to watch it. Go pop some popcorn. It's not going to get better for the Democrats. It's going to take them a little while to resolve this issue. And they've got to convince Joe Biden to leave. And thus far, they have no plan. They have no fallback plan. So they can't convince Joe Biden to leave without a fallback plan that they don't have.